Hello and welcome back to the How Platform. This is the How Platform. My name is Yewande. On this table we learn, we grow, we become, and we win. In today's video, I am going to be talking about goodbyes and good boundaries. What if your child comes back from school and they tell you another child wrote with a marker on their uniform? What would you do as a parent? What would you do as a parent if your child comes back from school and they tell you that another child went into their lunchbox, pick up their snacks and eat it without their permission? What do you do as a parent if your child comes back from school and they tell you that another child in their class eats them on the face? What do you do as a parent if your child comes back from school and tell you that another child tried to throw a chair over them? These are the things that parents have to deal with because children are not taught about boundaries. It is not only children that are not taught about boundaries. Even adults don't know how to set boundaries. And in today's video, I just want to share my thoughts and the lessons that I've learned around boundaries and how to set good boundaries and how to identify whether you have a poor boundaries. For anything that we want to do, boundaries are essential. For any growth that we want to accomplish in our life, in our career, in our business, in our any endeavor, we need boundaries. Boundaries are important because what happens when we set boundaries is that it simplifies our life. Boundaries make us simple. It makes us identify our audience. When you have the right boundaries, you are able to accommodate the right people as your audience, and you are able to bring them the best of your value because you are not pretending to be somebody else. You are yourself when you are around the right audience. So I want you to think about it. Put yourself in this position of that child and think of how you're going to respond to that. When somebody is constantly disrespecting you, when somebody is constantly creating a chaos in the classroom, when another child is constantly creating an environment where learning is difficult, what would you do? What would you do when somebody that you like or a relationship where you are and you like the person, you want to be around them? Because as humans, we want to be liked, we want to be in a relationship. We are created to be in a relationship. But what would you do when the relationship where you are is not an healthy environment for you to thrive or for you to grow and become all that God has called you to be? As an adult, what do you do? Because even adults are not taught how to set boundaries. And the purpose of today's video is to share my lessons and my thoughts and the inspiration that God gave me around setting boundaries in an healthy way. Boundaries are essential. There are times we need to say goodbye. There are times we need to redefine the access that we give to people into our life. There are times we need to withdraw our availability in some certain space or in some certain situation or even in the life of some certain individuals. There are times we have to say bye-bye to some relationship. Sometimes those bye-byes are not easy. Sometimes those bye-bye are very painful because you have invested into that relationship, you have poured yourself into that relationship, you have poured your life into that relationship, you want that relationship to continue to sustain itself. But there are times that we have to give up. There are times that we have to say it is over. This is not healthy. Because when we don't have boundaries, there's going to be chaos. And when there is no boundaries and chaos happens, accommodating chaos in our life is like dancing around dysfunction. When you know that a certain situation or a certain environment is unhealthy and you continue to accommodate that, when you know some certain relationships are being disrespectful in the way they communicate with you or in the way they are being dishonest in sharing with you and they are lying and they just want to use you and you are feeling used and it's depleting emotionally and draining you physically, there are times that we have to say goodbye. There are times that we have to quit on relationship. You know, for the past videos, we have been talking about rising from the cave of Adullam and studying how David went from the wilderness even to the palace. And the transition period for him was at the cave of Adullam. At that cave of Adullam, David was lonely. David was by himself. But when he was by himself, he found himself. And when he found himself, he became self-aware. At that point, he realized that there are levels of access that he needed to give to Saul. Saul was after his life. It would be dangerous for David to assume that Saul would not hurt him after seeing all the signs. There are times that we have to withdraw ourselves from that unsafe environment to be able to save ourselves. There's an adage in my country. It says, he who live to fight today will live to fight tomorrow. We are not trying to shine only for the moments. We are not trying to shine only for today. The goal is to shine and to sustain it and to maintain it and to continue to be persistent in our shining. So boundaries are essential. Because as you are growing, you know, on the theHowPlatform, we have been talking about principle for success and growth. We have been talking about the principle of calmness, the principle of clarity, consistency, commitment, the principle of communication. We have been talking about all these principles that are essential for growth. The principle of knowing when to be silent and knowing how to pick the right relationship. And that fits into how to set boundaries. Because as you continue to work on this principle and as you are growing, you're going to see that as you are growing, the things around you will start growing too. Your relationship will be growing. As you are growing in your communication, as you are growing in the way you set boundaries, you're teaching the people that depend on you that boundaries is very essential to you, and you're also teaching them how to set their own boundaries too. People that don't like talking about boundaries are people that really need it the most. They need to hear it the most. So as you are growing, you will see that there will be rising around you. Rising. The people that are connected to you will start seeing some rising in their life. That is you as a leader, as somebody of influence, generating effect on others. And what you will also see that as you're growing, there will be some type of new problem, new questions to be answered. And those new questions and new problems will need some additional people to come into your life. I mean, if you start, let's use an example. If you start a business, you might need somebody to draw a business plan or to write a contract for you. Then that is a good question. That is a good question, and you will need to bring in this new audience to do that function for you. Because as you're growing, that is your goal. That goal is going to be built on some certain structure. And those certain structure will inform some certain behavior, some certain response from you. And part of the things that you want to be prepared for on your journey to growth is that some people will not be part of that journey. Men are in sizes. There are seasons in relationship. There are seasons that we are building friends, we are gathering friends, and there are times and there are stages and there are levels that you get to in life that you have to let go. As painful as it could be, that you have to let go of those relationships, that you have to let go of the responsibility that you have taken up in those relationships, that you have to let go of the task that you are doing in that relationship. Because as you are doing that task, you are getting to a point where you are not happy with yourself. So as you are growing, the relationship in your life will be growing. And those that are not ready to grow along with you, you want to allow them to fall by. Don't force what God is trying to win out of your life. Don't force relationship. Because when you force a relationship, what will happen is that you will hurt yourself more. When you force a relationship, before I jump into signs of poor boundaries, I just want to share a story of what happened recently. So I always tell you, I like taking a walk. That's when I think, that's when I'm able to get some things out of my mind. And I am beginning to see that the Holy Spirit also tried to use that time to teach me some basic and important truths about life, and also help me to have new things to share on the Our Platform. So I took this walk. It was a Saturday. I was so happy with myself on that Saturday because the kids will have their swimming class very early on Saturday. So I took them there, got back, quickly made breakfast. It was a quick breakfast that morning. And I told myself it's a beautiful weather. It was like around 70 degrees. So the weather was like, it's fall around here in Minnesota. So I told myself that I would quickly go for my 3 miles walk. And so we have this trail that I would walk around. And usually when I go for this trail, there are certain things that you see when you go on the walking trail. And one thing that I told myself when we moved here from Texas is that, there are not going to be snakes in Minnesota, because Minnesota is cold, is colder compared to Texas. So I assume that there won't be snakes, but I've seen them a couple of times on my walk, and I would see the snake just at the sidewalk, by the side. They always try to stay close to the side. That's something about snake. They are very shy. They like staying close to the side. So on this Saturday, I took off, went for this walk, and I always have my earpod and my phone to listen to a podcast while walking. So I had planned to do that. I brought out the earpod, wanted to put it in my ears, and I just had this thought and this nudge in me that said, Yewande, pay attention. There might be snake on your path today. And immediately I said to myself that usually the snake will stay to the side of the walk. But I knew I have practiced enough to recognize when the Holy Spirit is nudging me towards something. So I stayed focused on the road as I was walking. So like about half of a mile into the walk, something said, look up. And I looked up, and right in the middle of the road, I don't know, maybe it was a cobra, but it was a snake that was so confident. I mean, I've never seen a snake that confident, because it has its head like this, right like this. It was kind of enjoying the beautiful weather too. In the middle of a sidewalk, because the way we have our sidewalk in Minnesota is that it's very big, enough that a car can drive. So 2 people or even 4 people can be walking on the sidewalk at the same time. But this snake chose to stay at the center of the road with its mouth like this. And I looked up, I said, thank you, Holy Spirit. Somewhere in my mind, I felt like, should I turn back? Oh my God, I've just gone, I wanted to do 3 miles. I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve, but I don't have the courage like my dad to kill a snake. What do I do? So sometimes sometimes when you're moving, the snake will quickly go into the grass, into the bush. So I try to hit the floor harder to show that I'm moving, move. This snake just stood there. I've never seen that confidence before. It just stood there and was staring at me like, come here, baby. I said, no way. They come all the way from Africa to be beaten by a snake. And then I clapped, thinking that would allow the snake. The snake was enjoying the weather too. The snake was supposed to be in the bush. I mean, that is your place. The sidewalk, I paid tax for me to be able to walk on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is for human. But right now, the snake is occupying the space. And I told myself, what else will I do? I really want to go on this walk. No, I didn't kill the snake, if that's what you're thinking. I've never killed a snake before. And then I remember that the last time as soon as I saw a snake, I wanted to bring out my camera. The snake ran into the bush. I said, okay, let me try to do a video. And I brought out my camera, and as soon as I started recording, I don't know, maybe the snake doesn't want to grow viral or trend. He quickly ran and walked into the bush, and I was able to capture that on my camera, and I continued my walk. So I started with kids are not taught about boundaries, which means if an adult don't get a chance for somebody to teach them how to set boundaries, we're going to have adults who don't have boundaries. And you're going to see in this case that even animals, if they are not taught how to stay on their leash, how to control themselves when they're outside, how to know when to go into and to wee or pee, if animals are not taught, they might not know. So we have to not only teach ourselves boundaries, we also have to set for ourselves boundaries, because the way we teach others boundaries is by setting for ourselves boundaries. So you want to think of this video that the boundaries that you are setting based on your lesson from this video is not for others. You want to think of yourself first, because as at the beginning you were created as an individual. Even if you are twin, you're still an individual. So the boundaries that you're talking about now is something that will bring a lot of structure into your life. When you set boundaries, it's going to bring peace into your life. It's going to simplify your life. What if I had decided to walk into the sidewalk and said, oh, snake, I paid. My tax money is part of what they used to construct this sidewalk. I own the road. I should be able to walk. You are supposed to be in the bush. I would have been beaten, because that snake was like this. When there are no boundaries, there will be chaos. That will be me dancing around dysfunction. The snake was supposed to be in the bush, but if I decide to walk on top of the snake, that will be dancing around dysfunction. When you dance around dysfunction, the stability becomes a part of your life. When you dance around dysfunction, it depletes your self-confidence. When you dance around dysfunction, your self-esteem goes out of the window. Some of you are dancing around dysfunction in your relationship. It is time to set boundaries. Good boundaries. It is important. And good boundaries sometimes are necessary. And within good boundaries, it is sometimes necessary to be ready to say goodbyes, even when those goodbyes hurt. I stayed in my lane. I mind my business. The snake walked away. I was able to continue with my work, because you and I have a goal. We have a goal. Anyone that is not going in your direction is a distraction. We can't afford to be throwing stones at any form of distraction we see on our way. You have a goal, and it is important to stay focused. Boundaries help you stay focused. So for those of you who are thinking, okay, so what are the signs that tells me that I have poor boundaries? For me, one of the signs that shows I have poor boundaries is pleasing people, trying to please people, doing things for people when it's not convenient, and at the end, they will not even appreciate it. When you are in the self-pleasing, you want to please people, you want to please your congregation, I'm not saying you should not please your customer, you are making money out of it, which is a business for you. But I'm talking about me trying to please people who are not paying me anything for it. At that time, that people pleaser thing is also a sign of insecurity. When you want to please people who do, because when you are trying to help people who don't want to help, there are no thank you after that. When you are trying to help people who don't want you in their life, there is no follow-up on updates on the matter, because they don't want you there in the first place. People pleaser. When you try to be pleasing people, another sign that you're going to see is that you will be fatigued and depleted. You will be stretching yourself into areas that God has not called you into. You will be servicing audience that are not part of your core position. You know, when I was talking about shining, I said we shine in front of the right audience and we have our position. When you are trying to please people, those part of the audience that you are trying to please are not people in your audience. That is why you are pleasing them. And because you are a people pleaser, sometimes you are doing those things that are not convenient for you. Sometimes I'm making the food for this sick relationship, sick individual, even when I have sickness in my body. It was not convenient. Sometimes you see yourself giving up needs of your family to take care of the needs of this individual. People pleasing. That is something that you will observe when you have poor boundaries. Late coming, because you have stretched yourself, you are fatigued over things that are none of your business. You will be seeing yourself running late to church, running late to places that are important, like your doctor's appointments, like your workplace, and you are behind in your schedule of projects, those are the signs that you're going to see when you have poor boundaries. When you have poor boundaries, another sign that you're going to see is that you'll be taking up responsibility that are not yours. You'll be taking up the pains of people that are not supposed to be part of your pain. Now you will start noticing yourself getting sad. You will be feeling sad, and why everybody will be asking you, everything is going on right in your life, and you say, oh, it's just because of this, my friend, he doesn't have a rent to pay, and you are taking up burdens. You can't be God in other people's life. You can't even be God in your own life. It's a sign of poor boundaries for you to assume the position of God in other people's life. It's a sign of poor boundaries for you to assume the position of God and taking responsibility. And when I'm talking about taking responsibility, I mean, when our kids are still small, we want to change their diaper, you're not going to tell your baby to go change his or her own diaper. No, that's not what we are talking about here. Your child needs you. They are dependent at that point. But when your 10-year-old get to a point and they still want you to be telling them and reminding them when to go to the bathroom, then there is a reason, there is a need for boundaries to be set at that point. Because there is time for everything. There are seasons in life. When the child is still a baby, you can be helping them with that. But the goal of helping them is to train them to a point where they can do that for themselves. When you see yourself taking up responsibilities that are no longer yours, even in the life of your children, that is a future of poor boundaries. And that is when you need to come up with setting good boundaries. When you are filled with disrespect. Oh, another sign of poor boundaries is when you feel people are using you. You feel used. They only call you when they need you. They only call you when they are in serious problem. When things get better, you don't get a call from them. There is need to set good boundaries for yourself. So you are in their life when things are getting bad. When they are in jail, they will call you. When they are having problems in their marriage, they will call you. But when that problem is resolved, you won't get a call from them. When that issue in their marriage or when that delay in job search is resolved and they get the job offer, nobody calls you to update you. And you're still bearing the burden. You're still carrying the pain that, oh, there's no job. I need to pray for so and so about their job. I need to pray. These are things that you tells us when we need a good boundaries. When you feel you are taking too much responsibility in other people's life. We saw for David when he realized that the relationship of Saul was becoming a parasitic relationship. Because a parasitic relationship is a relationship that only draws from you and doesn't bring any benefit into your life. When David realized that that relationship was becoming parasitic, he withdrew himself. He went to go and eat in the cave of Adullam. You need to know that the boundaries that you're setting is for yourself and you have to set it. And what I want to share with you now is that everything about boundary has to do with geography. Everything about boundary has to do with geography. And when you talk about geography, there is north and south and east and west. When you talk about the geography, you have demarcation. When you talk about geography, you have separation. And that's what happens. When you set good boundaries, you have clarity. When you set good boundaries around what you're supposed to do, you know the people you have been called to serve, those people you are generating positive effects on, and you quickly focus on that. Because something that you will realize that when you have poor boundaries, you are going to be dancing in front of the audience that are not really interested in your content. You know, when you're thinking of a stage, let's say your audience are over here. They want to be watching you. They want to see you win. They want you to see you teach them important stuff. But if you are thinking of the audience over there and you're doing your acrobatic moves, but they are not paying attention to you, those are signs of poor boundaries. So I've noted things that you will see when you have poor boundaries. So how do you set good boundaries? And in this video, I want to be practical in what I share on what I do. Recently, I've taken a lot of responsibility. The How platform and sharing content here is one of them. The kids have also grown. My children have also grown. And they are in the middle of an age where I have to provide some support, doing all the runs for sports activity, after school activity, student council activity. I've been the parenting, when I was younger and I look at parents of teens and older kids, I would think, oh, I envy them, and I think, oh, their life is much easier. Now I understand that parenting work doesn't disappear, it just evolves. It's a different role. And now I'm in the middle of it, which means I have to create time for that. On my own job too, I've taken more tasks, I've taken more responsibility, I've asked to contribute to projects. Also, at my church, I've been asked to step into some leadership roles. What I'm going here is that if I'm stepping up, if I'm growing, that means there are things I have to stop doing. And there are things, because I'm taking up new things, I have to give up some things. I know this is almost bringing in that term, that economic term, opportunity cost. You have to give up something to get something. And the opportunity cost of something is what you give up to get it. So I sat down to myself and I said, there are things I have to give up. These are the things I'm interested in. I want to develop my communication skill. The How platform, I want to share my content. I want to be able to share the inspiration that God has given to me with a broader audience. I don't just want to be sharing it with my contact alone. So the How platform is something that I prioritize. My family is also a priority. My time with God is a priority. My service in the Church of God is also very, very important to me. I serve in the finance committee. So all these different roles that have come up means I'm going to have to give up something. I have to learn new skill. I have to bring in new relationships into my life. I have to give up some relationship. And the boundaries doesn't mean you hate people. That's something you want to remember about boundaries. It doesn't mean that you hate people. I'm not saying set boundaries and start blocking people and start putting them in the hate zone. You are setting it for yourself, for your own mental health, for your own self-esteem, for your own purpose, so that you can be all that God has called you to be. Because I know that one of the things that God has called you not to be is people pleaser. God has not called any of us to be people pleaser or to be pleasing people or to be serving people who have not been called as part of our audience. So I told myself I am going to give up some relationship. And that means that there are times that I don't jump on the call often and jump on the call to answer some calls. If they call me, if some people call me, that means there are limits to the time that I'm spending on that call, because I have to create time for other things in my life. That means I'm not jumping on the call talking to somebody about something that is none of my business for more than 30 minutes or for more than... That means I don't have to go to events when I'm not invited. That is minding your business. That is staying in your lane. That is boundary right there. If people don't invite you, they've been planning the event months before, and they just send you the invite a week or 2 days to the time for an event that they've been planning months. That means you were there afterthoughts. For that event, I'm going to say, thank you, sorry, I'm not able to join. There's no hatred in it. It doesn't fit my schedule, because I already have people dropping things in my schedule. My kids are dropping things in my schedule. My spouse is dropping something on my schedule. I have dependents on me. I have to take care of some other things. So if you have to know what you need to do, that is very, very important. And that means you are going to let go. You want to sit down. And when I'm talking about boundaries, you don't set boundaries in vacuum. You don't set boundaries in vacuum and just think to yourself, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do to this. So you set it for yourself, and you don't set it in vacuum. So the first thing that we say, you want to start from a safe place. Start from a safe place. I've been talking about boundaries when things are not normal, when there is a chaos, but the chaos has not become a dangerous situation. But there are boundaries that are necessary in an environment where it's becoming very violent, when there are domestic violence involved. At that point, you don't continue in that environment and continue to set boundaries there. You want to set your boundary from a safe place, which means you may have to get out of that situation before you start setting boundaries. You may even have to get some help before start setting boundaries when violence is already involved. We set boundaries from a safe place. We set boundaries for ourselves. We set boundaries out of love. We set boundaries out of love. Let your heart be in the right place. Let your heart be in the right place. So the lesson that I've already drawn on the lesson that I'm going to use to highlight the people that you want to be bringing into your position, that you want to be bringing with you. Because when you are growing, you are going to be noticing that some people will be growing along with you. I've noticed that. Some of my friends, they will call me and they will tell me about, oh, I like this video. I will share this video. I like this content. We are growing together, and they will tell me, oh, this is what I'm doing about this and that. And there are friends that feel like, oh, what's she doing? Does she think she knows better than us? And then those relationships, they are falling apart. It will be very foolish of me to be trying to drag those people along. Very, very foolish of me. There will be time to let go. That is part of setting boundaries. David in Psalm 1. I want you to pay attention to the lesson that I'm going to lay out quickly on setting boundaries. David said, "Blessed is the man that walk not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish." Boundaries. In that Psalms 1, David laid out the level of demarcation that you need to set. Like I said, everything about boundary has to do with geography. Everything about boundary has to do with geography. So you need to know your position. You need to know what you want. You need to know the people that will be part of what you want or where you are going. Because anyone not going in your direction is a distraction. Anyone that is not coming and bringing something positive towards your goal is a distraction. So you need to know where you are going. And David laid out the demarcation that you need to put in. The people you work with, the people you sit with, the people you stand with. The people you work with, the people you sit with, the people you stand with. I want to start with the work. You know, we are working towards something. We have a goal, right? Every one of us, we're going somewhere. You want to know that it is blessed to work with people who are moving in your direction. People who have movement. Because people who are moving in your direction or moving at the same pace, they are going to understand the sacrifice that you are making. And you can easily grow together with those people. And those are the people you want to be bringing into your life. You want to set boundaries in the type of people you work with. In the people you work with, people that you hang out with. You know, work. When you talk about working, I've mentioned it that we walk by faith. It is a one step forward and then the other. The people you work with, who are the people you are moving with? Are they driving you towards your goal, towards your growth, towards your desire, where you want to land? If you are trying to improve on your communication, what are the content that you are listening to? What are the content? And is that helping you to improve your vocabulary? You want to start cutting and putting access in place in your life, because boundary has a lot to do with access. The people that get access to you. in terms of the people you are working with. It is not everyone that will be your friend. Everyone will not like you, and you are not going to like everyone, and that is okay. And that is okay. We are commanded to love. There is a difference between love and like. That means we have to be careful the people we work with. You want to make sure the people that you are working with are moving toward the same goal, or they have the same value. They are moving towards the same value. Some of the relationships that I've had to cut out of my life is when I realized that what I value is not what these people value. I value honesty. In friendship, I value openness, honesty. And when I noticed in this relationship that I was asking questions that these people are not willing to share, but I am carrying burdens that is difficult for me to bear. I am trying to be God, which was very, very wrong of me. And I told myself at that point, this is a time to restrict access. I am no longer going to be carrying this body. It is not mine. It is God's body. If they are not ready to share, maybe I should stop asking the question. I am not going to be working with people who are dishonest. Because when people are dishonest, you can't expect loyalty from a dishonest individual. So in a relationship, when you feel that you are in a relationship, because for me, when I'm in a relationship, I share. If I'm going, I update. I share, I'm open. That is what an healthy relationship should be. In an healthy relationship, you should be able to say yes and no. You should be able to be yourself. In a healthy relationship, you should be able to bring all of yourself into that relationship. So when you are in a relationship and you are having to walk like you are on an eggshell, that is a point to know there is reason to set boundaries in that relationship. You want to set boundaries in the people you work with. Do they have a common value like you? I value honesty. And when I realize that these people are not being transparent, and I don't want a situation where I'm having a situation where I have to be explaining about people who are not being transparent to me. That can get me into trouble, not only with other individuals, but with God. I cut the access. It was a painful cut, but it was needed. It was needed. You want to be very, very intentional in the people that you are working with. Are they going in your direction? Do they value the same thing that you value? David said, blessed are the people who walk in the counsel of the godly. Those who walk in the counsel of the godly. When I see that people that these people are not walking in the counsel of God, they are trying to do things that I know God will not be happy with, I stepped back. I stepped back. I confronted them. I told them this is not right. Not once, not twice, not even thrice. You know, that's very important. Like when you're setting boundaries, you want to have an open conversation with the individual. You want to first talk to them. And then you want to communicate it in such a way that I am going to do this, not for you. I'm not trying to change you. We can't change people. But the only individual we're setting boundaries for is for ourselves. I can't change you, but here is what I'm going to do. I am not going to be part of any ungodly conversation. I am not going to walk with you on any ungodly path. Like I said, everything about boundaries has to do with geography, which means you have to cut access in the type of people you are working with. If they are not working in your direction, that is a point to start saying no to those relationships. Saying no is essential. It is very important to know when to say goodbye in the relationship. Now let's talk about stand. David said they stand in the way of sinners. Your friends, the people that you call your close allies, who are they standing with? Who are they standing with? You know, standing means your position, because you stand in your position. So you want to be very, very careful in the choice of people that you are standing with. people that you're standing with. Because the people that you're standing with will inform the position, and that will inform the audience. The reason why some big brand like Nike would pay a lot to some sports people and actors to wear their product is that they know that the audience can drive, their position can drive an audience to them. You have a stand. The people that you stand with matter. Who are you standing with right now? You can't be planning to start a business and all the people that you are standing with are not into business. It will not be helpful for your growth. You can't be planning to be in ministry and all the friends that you have around you, none of them is in ministry. Who are you standing with? Who are you working with? And the last part is, who are you sitting with? David said, blessed is the man who sits not in the midst of the scornful. Who are you sitting with? You know, in the video, when I talked about creativity, I said something about creativity, that creativity is a very messy business. When artists are trying to create a product or trying to create a content, it is something that it comes out of all your craziness coming together and you are making sense out of it. And at that point when you are making sense out of it, you want to be around people who validate you, who value what you are bringing to the table, and who continue to make you feel valuable, that what you are doing makes sense. And that will continue to promote you towards that goal and continue to inspire you to pursue your goal. But if the people you are sitting with are people who don't value you, and whenever you share your new brand content with them, and they say, that will deplete your courage and your confidence. And that is why it is very, very important to know who we should give access to and bring in to sit with us. To sit with us on the same table. When Jesus started his ministry, he could as well bring all the people in Jerusalem to come sit with him. But he chose some certain people, 12 people. Even with choosing 12 people, one of them still betrayed him. So if you are having too many friends, you are just accumulating a lot of troubles into your life. If you say everybody is my friend, it shows a poor boundary. Everybody cannot like you, so everybody should not be your friend. There are levels in relationship. There are levels of access. So I've talked about be blessed in the way you walk by setting boundaries in the people that you work with. Be blessed in the way you stand by setting some boundaries in the people you stand with on a matter, on a subject. And I've also mentioned be blessed in the people you sit with, because they are going to inform your confidence. They will let you know how valuable you are. I remember when I was in college and I would create notes. You know, when I was in college, I would create all these notes or lecture notes. I will write them neatly, and my classmates will copy the content and they would share. I will even see my notes at the photocopier place. So we have a place where we do our photocopy. My notes was spread across the whole class to share. I don't think I got a thank you, but one of my friends said, Yewande, I like the way you always write your notes. And whenever I read your notes, it's easy for me to understand. Opayemi she didn't know what she did that day for me. That gave me a lot of confidence to want to share whatever I have with people. Because I didn't know how much effect I am generating on others. And that is majority of us. Insecure. We don't know the effects until somebody tells us, thank you for what you have done. And that is why you want to be careful about the people you bring to sit with you. Because if you are sitting with the wrong crowd, people who don't value what you value, people who don't value the gifts that you have, you are going to limit your own potential. There are times that we have to separate. Everything about boundaries is about geography. I've shared my notes with you. Let me know how it resonates with you. Feel free to share your own story. I've had to say goodbyes. Even more recently, I've had to say goodbye to some things. When I took up some leadership role at our church, I've had to give up my teaching responsibility. Even though I like teaching the children in the children and the family ministry, I have had to give up that so that I can create more room for the things that are needed in my life and in the church of God. There are times I've said byes to relationship because I realized that it was depleting my self-esteem. I was serving people who don't value what I bring to the table. And there are times that you have to withdraw that kind of service. I heard a joke. He said, lawyers, they only speak for clients that pay them. Do things for people that value it. I know there are times that we want to step in, we want to help because God has put it in our heart. Please, if God has put it in your heart to continue to do it with the whole of your heart. Paul said something that if anyone should give, they should do it not grudgingly. They should do it generously. Make sure whatever you are doing for people is coming from a loving heart. You are not doing it so that they can make you God in their lives. You are not doing it so that they can continue to say, if not because of you, but you are doing it for God. So that when they don't come back to say thank you, you are not feeling bad because you did your own for God. I've shared my lesson. Feel free to drop yours about boundaries in the comments. Boundaries start from the place of love. Boundaries is about geography. We are careful about who we work with, we are careful about who we stand with, and we are careful about who we bring to our table. That includes the people who have access to us. Thank you for joining me on the platform. This is the platform. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video.